Sakrakang iyo vele ku podcast nasiwe vele.
Hayi,
Ngiyakuvela.
ngikathile,
It's fine.
ngikathile.
SafeSpace Podcast. Take one in three, two, one, action.
Sanibonani, Dumelang, Abshendi Macheron, Barimini, hello. Igama uNhlanhla kaNkala, and you are at the SafeSpace Podcast. What I have today for you guys is very unconventional. Mangantshela ngizocabanga ukuthi ngidlala ngani. But I have a guest who is in an industry which is very infamous for violence and
Angifuni ukuhleka
I'm just I wouldn't think a woman would go into that. That's the first thing I thought about Manglangana now is Fikile. I'm like, what? A taxi, woman in the taxi industry. Okay, I said it already. Shoba,
Yes.
how are you doing?
Good. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. My first podcast, by the way, I've never been in a podcast. I avoid them by all costs.
Why?
I'm just not a camera person.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm just not a camera person.
You have the face for it though.
Thank you. I'll take that. Thank you. Modeling agencies, I hope you are.
Oh yeah, well, for my application, they have to apply to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, Joguti, like before we met at an ANC rally.
Yes.
I'm
ANC
like,
something, yeah.
Yeah, it was an ANC thing, and then I'm like, yo, Mafikile, because you gave like a speech, and then I was so moved with it. How? It was so. What prompted you to go into that industry? And okay, maybe we can start by telling us what you ngobani, where you come from, and what do you do.
Yeah. Okay, so like you've rightfully said, I'm in the taxi industry, Fikile Shoba. I've always been in the motor industry, Jay. So I think it's one of the industries, Jay, as in Chuzile. It chose me. Just to give you a little bit of background where I come from with motor. When I was still a student doing grade 11, I was working at Super Quick.
Okay.
Doing filing after school.
Okay.
So come from school, go to work, do my filing. And also go on Saturday. They used to close at 1 on Saturdays.
Okay.
So that was the beginning of my motor journey. When I finished school, after varsity, I started working at West Bank. It was a normal call center job, inbound call center, like everyone starts, So, but I grew fond of the motor industry itself. So fast forward later in the years, can't remember which year exactly, but I found myself working for a taxi dealership. Before working for a taxi dealership, I worked for a finance institution that was specifically financing taxis.
Okay.
And that's when I gained exposure to this industry. I was quite amazed at the fact that, they actually do get finance.
Is it?
I always imagined it to be a cash industry. I thought they had bags of cash somewhere behind the
just buy
mattress.
taxis,
They just
cash.
go there with the suitcase and buying a taxi.
Sure.
So when I saw the finance model for the taxis, I was like, okay, this is quite interesting. And my move from there has always been in the taxi space. I've worked for taxi dealership, blah, 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 but I'm independent at the moment. I'm working as a partner with one of the biggest taxi association in the industry. I'm not going to be mentioning names for whatever reason,
For
but I
obvious
am
reasons.
a partner with one of the big association that I believe everyone knows. So, yeah.
Okay, that's nice. So, what do you do? Do you facilitate the financing of where does your role come in?
My role is mainly in sales. I always introduce myself as a salesperson. If anyone asks me what I do, I just say I sell taxis.
Oh, you sell taxis?
Yeah, I sell taxis and it ends there. That's basically what I say.
Wow.
So, but just to give you some meat to the skeleton, I sell taxis on behalf of certain dealerships that are my partners.
Okay.
And then I work alongside with this giant association in terms of introducing finance models that will be adopted by the banks that will work for the taxi industry. So I'm sort of in between because on this end, they deal more with the compliance stuff and ensuring that the people that are being financed by the finance institution are actually the taxi operators. They belong to associations. They are approved and recognized members of associations in good standing. They have operating licenses that are valid, allowing them to operate at certain routes. And we also do for the bank the calculations and estimations of how much will that particular taxi be making at a certain route, just to give them an idea of whether or not this person can afford to purchase this taxi. So unlike any other client who is applying for vehicle finance, when you're applying for a taxi finance, we use what we call projected income. We approve you based on what you will be making with the asset rather than what you already have in the bank. So it was our responsibility with this partner to ensure that we give the right projections to the banks to say this guy is qualified. So obviously there's always cracks in between the processes and the system, and you find yourself in a position where certain clients didn't give you enough information for you to make the right projections. So I'm working with this partner to close those loopholes and work very closely with the banks, because I think the mistake was that, like with the finance institution, they always offer what they think is best. They don't use a consultative method with the
Based on your
industry
needs.
to tailor make your solutions. So what we are doing, we are taking a step back to say, okay, how do we mitigate these risks for you? How do we make sure that all those gaps are closed and your risk is covered and the dealers are able to sell enough units to the right people?
Wow,
Yeah.
that's so cool. So, oh my God, how does that come about? How do you speak? Because like I'm so mind boggled. How do you?
I understand. Yeah,
Because from my perspective, I view the taxi industry as a space that's very like abantu bakhona ba stubborn, you know. You're not just gonna come and be like, hey, mabaso uzwa ngifuna ukunikeza business, you know. So how does that conversation go with do you have a connection or yeah?
I'm with you. You form these relationships with these taxi associations, and there's plenty of them. Contrary to what people believe, if you are a salesperson and you are selling a taxi, I would not necessarily consider you a good salesperson, because it's a very easy sell. You're selling to someone that already wants what you are offering.
Sure.
So it's very easy. It's not what you imagine it to be. So you obviously make your appointment with the taxi association executives. You have a word with them, you sit them down. Most of them know what they want. Most of them know what they want, believe me. So all you do is just to basically understand their needs and give them enough financial literacy as possible to make sure that they just, because some of them they want to have a certain number of taxis, but they don't take into account whether or not those taxis will all be operating and will all be making money.
Sure.
So you have to be mindful, and the executives of the associations are doing a good job to some degree in ensuring that, okay, we are not onboarding or accepting as many taxis to congest the route, because if everyone has 16 taxis, 20 taxis, there's only a certain number of people on that particular route, and then how are you going to make money? You understand? So I would what I usually say is that most associations that are fighting for routes are associations that are not managing their routes very well. You know, and you find that there's a very unfair imbalance on who has how many taxis dominating a certain route, taking away from everyone's pie. Do you understand? So I think it just has to be managed in a way that is fair. and that accommodates everyone within the route. As it's not always easy, obviously, because there are power dynamics. Everyone wants to have a say to some degree, but you'd be surprised that some of the associations are actually well managed. They are proper businesses that are registered. They have AGMs at the end of each financial year. They project their financials on the screen for the members to see what went into the association, how much was spent, where they are that much accountable to their members. And, that is the picture we are trying to paint to the banks to say, if you are saying, yes, you are financing this industry, but you have put them in a high-risk bracket. We are coming in to say, don't use that blanket approach when it comes to them. There is a way in which you can grade them according to their risk. Not everyone is under the same amount of risk. So we are working closely with these associations and the banks to say, okay, these could be your guys. These are the people you can bank on. You're not taking much of a risk by financing these ones. And I know that there is a risk factor also on my end, because it's going to look like we are biased to a certain group not. But we are managing that in more financial literacy and education, and just communicating constantly with them and align them with where the banks are and where they are. So we are the representatives of the banks to the industry, and we are the representatives of the industry to the banks.
Which is dope. But I also wanted to ask you, mawuloku khuluma kanje, something is popping in my mind. We've just been like talking about numbers namanje ukuthi the township economy, gambling made like trillions off of that, meaning ukuthi there's a lot of money there. The taxi industry nayo nje is just another business where we don't know ukuthi imali yakhona ingakanani, but there's a lot of money being made there. So why do you think there's such is it intentional ukuthi the taxi industry movie towards the rest of the world digitizing, registering, or it's just a narrative akhona ma association who are registered and they are actually doing the thing?
So that's a very good question. There are associations, like I said, that are well managed, and they are proper businesses, and they pay their SARS. They are good. They are a business, and there's many of them, much more than the ones that are not, to be quite honest. So when it comes to digitization, there are many different dynamics to consider. It's easy. Well, there are associations that have recently adopted a cashless payment, cashless fair payment.
That's
yes,
dope.
yes, there are. There's a lady that posted about it. Was going on and trending on TikTok about it. But there are associations that are cashless at the moment. It's going to be difficult to roll that out to all of them at the same time, because before you introduce something, you have to explain and make sure that whoever that is receiving that product understand exactly how it works. You understand? So also you have to make something that is convenient for the driver. So those cashless fare payments are usually convenient for long distance routes,
sure.
because you pay at one point and then you shoot straight to that particular route, you are there. But if you're a driver, you're driving a taxi and there's a cashless thing going on, I would imagine there is where you have to press to set up that fare that a person has to pay, like a speed point in a way, because one taxi operates in different route. You will know that when you take a taxi, for instance, from Barra to maybe Orlando, for instance, the taxi that will take you to Orlando doesn't just go to Orlando straight. Maybe it goes to Dube, it goes to wherever. So whoever that's going to Orlando pays a certain amount. Whoever that's going to Dube pays a different amount. Whoever that pays, and along the way, there are people who catch the taxi. As people are jumping out, people are catching the taxi. Now you have to make it safe for the driver to manage that, to be able to handle that. Yeah. So currently they are used to cash, and the person sitting next to him, passenger, is able to, calculate on his behalf and do all those things on his behalf. But when it comes to digital method, how is then, because at the end of the day, even if you've counted the money for the driver, at the end he counts all of it to ensure that it's all there. And he will tell you if it's short, he knows that it's supposed to be this much. So exactly. So now you have this digital tool. It has to be something innovative that will give the driver some sort of instant idea of how much has been collected from this route, and it doesn't take him off the road, because he is driving, he is on the road, so you don't want him pressing buttons all the way. He's putting your lives at risk, by so doing. So it's a very sketchy one at the moment, and I don't think we have the technological tools that are able to address that at the moment. We are just talking about coupons maybe, or speed point, which will require extra attention and extra admin for the driver. So
because when you mentioning these things, I'm thinking, what if, just an idea, what if so as I'm waiting for the taxi here, it's pinging my location, so it knows if I'm going to this place, it's gonna be this long, and then this route is supposed to be this much. Take the money from the wallet, and then umuntu driver uthola imali yakhe at the end of the day, or something like that. I don't know.
Those are some of the things that can be looked into. Those are the ideas we welcome.
Sure.
Create it, put it out there. Let's see how it works. Because at the end of the day, we just want something that's going to be convenient, and also we have to get to a point where we convince the drivers to adopt it, because about driver nabo, they are pushing against this, because kunemali ekumele yesokusini.
So manje seyizotrackwa manje yonke le mali lena uzobona ridings a day. I'm actually making this much.
There are many dynamics to maneuver through to get this right. Is it impossible? No, it's not impossible.
It's
and
not.
I believe that many people within the industry, as well as the business partners, are doing their best to get the industry there. Eventually it will have to get there.
It has to, because even with ngihlala manje, I just moved to a new area in Ivory Tembis. That place is so inenkinga, like ngamateksi. I don't know why, but everything takes long. So imagine if like Abo Commercial had like an app, right? I don't know how they would manage it, but umuntu makangena at a certain point azothi okay ingena umuntu kanje, and then yabo baqueue kahle, and then backtrackana ngama-location ukuthi this is the closest person to this location, because like it's a lot. Yes, sometimes and mawumile laphayana and you're waiting for the taxi, you feel like abantu badlala ngesikhathi sabo, and umbone ukuthi umuntu wakhona frustrated ngoba kenzakala izinto eziningi. I'm just looking at these things and I'm like, it's the 21st century and things are moving so quickly, and kuyofanele naye move, because in the next 10 years I feel like sobe sigibela amateksi andizayo. So how's that gonna yo dude, I mean when you drive, dog, you'll have a flying car, but I feel like we should prepare for these things, man. And
no, that's true. You are raising a very valid point. I've had a discussion like this before with some tech guy who mentioned something like that, especially the waiting to see for the taxi, to see with okay, abantu abafuna imoto nabo, my commuters are there, I'm here, I should be headed that way, rather than going around wasting your diesel ngapha and all of that. Yes. I mean, you are asking me how did I get into the, you can also squeeze yourself in and say, guys, these are the solutions I'm having, and you present it to us and we have a look, and we pilot it, and if it works, it works. You'll never know. You'll never know. So anyone listening and they think they have solutions, I mean, holla at us. We can look into it and see what we can, because at the end of the day, we want to make it we want to reduce the risk because the cash on its own
It's a risk,
presents a
yeah.
risk. I once worked as an insurance broker. The stories I used to hear about the hijackings, and
It's a lot.
it's a lot, and sometimes drivers actually lose their lives.
Yeah,
you
it
know.
becomes violent.
Yeah, because some of them think, oh no, you can't do this to me. I'm a taxi person. I will fight back.
Yeah.
But you don't know who you're fighting
Ish.
at the end of the day. So we used to do a lot of claims of such hijackings because there's cash. But if you are moving towards the cashless world, that's minus one problem
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's important for the industry to move towards that direction, and also it will give the owner a true reflection of how much exactly is he making, because nothing will slip through.
Yeah,
their
everything
socks.
is transparent. Yeah, everything is transparent.
Everything is transparent, and you tracking it in real time.
And I imagine like you would, if you know like that exactly as ukuthi iteksi esona ngithenge ngesikhathi esisona kufanele ngenze imali engaka and then ngakwazi ukuthenga. I mean, you can be able to track instead of ukuthi sigibele yazi Alexandra for example yo bangangishaya abantu yo amateksi walapha because can you do something alamateksi walapha like oh guys, I don't know guys, walking death traps dog.
So guys, do you know that each and every taxi has a sticker with the taxi association name and the contact number of the association on it? Have you ever made use of any of those?
Nah.
Exactly. And I believe it's important for the general public to know that those offices actually work.
Yeah.
When you phone those numbers and you present your case, there are grievance officers in each and every taxi association that specifically deals with such grievances. So certain things are happening on the streets, and by the time they find out, maybe it's the 1,000th incident, they didn't know all along that that was happening because no one cares to bring it to their attention. So take your chance. Not even the thingy, not even the association, even the owner's details are there. If you move to the driver's side, you see whose taxi is this, what is his number. So we don't do that. You don't phone the owner, you don't phone the association. The association is sitting there thinking everything is well. You are frustrated there, you don't even know who to tell, and it just it's a cycle. They are humans, they are business people, they are humans. Yes, the behavior on the road might present a certain image, and the news you hear about the killings might also create a certain image about exactly. But they are people, and whatever that they are fighting about has got nothing to do with you, the passenger. It's other things. If that was the case, I was probably be shot by now, maybe for no reason. If they were just going around shooting people in jail, I would probably be shot by now. But I'm working with them, and they are decent people, very respectful. I have not experienced any form of discrimination or sexism or anything like that. I get the respect from them and the support more than anything.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so just in closing, for someone, no matter their gender role or what, walks of life, someone who's like, yo, I'm very interested into in being in this industry, or what's the first step? Because we are scared, khona umuntu mhlawumbe uphumele imali zakhe zasespanini and they want to invest it in something that's also going to make them money.
Yeah. So the taxi industry is quite diverse. There are taxis, there are scholar transport, and the scholar transport also belong to certain associations, scholar associations. Yes.
Wow.
And they are also regulated as much as the taxis are. So it will depend on what you want to do. And there are shuttle services and all of that. So I would advise to say, one, don't do it for the sake of I don't know what to do with my money, therefore I'm doing A, B, and C. It's important to do your own research and and know exactly where you can place your taxi, because not all routes are profitable. And some of the profitable routes are very difficult to get into because everyone wants to be there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would advise one to just do your own thorough research, sit down with these guys, do propose to them that this is the route I'm wanting to take. Some of the people, they take on a back door, you know, they will say, oh, because you're already there, hey, ngifakele imoto yami, you know, there's a name for that, by the way, but
Is it
kwapa.
Ikwapa,
So
you even know the terms.
exactly. So, and those are the things that causes violence, because people don't want to follow the proper channels. Now it's gonna look like these people are bad guys, you know, but people who are not part of the industry are distracting the industry, are causing a lot of disruptions, and when these guys retaliate, it becomes as though they are the violent ones. I always say, when people complain, yeah, taxi drivers, yeah, they don't even know how to drive on the road, blah, 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 blah. And I'm saying, okay, I don't know, maybe those people are speaking from a point of privilege, and I'm saying this, not promoting illegal, bad driving and not following the rules of the road. But let me tell you this, as someone who was a commuter herself, when you're in a taxi, that driver is under pressure. When he starts following, not even checking, under pressure from the passengers.
Sure.
Do you understand?
Sure.
So it's the passengers that are saying, slate,
Yeah.
why am I having a yellow lane?
Yo.
Why, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. And then I'm going to yellow lane bamba, but
you know, that's I've been on that sit. I've been one of the people putting pressure on a driver, not verbally telling him to go on a yellow lane, but I knew I would be frustrated when I get a driver that follows the rules of the road. So they are the most frustrating people. And I'm not promoting that drivers shouldn't say that, but I'm saying the same public that criticizes these people are the same public that are actually encouraging them to do these things. So there's double standards. When you're sitting on the other side, now you want to be holy, you want to be goody two shoes about it. Do you know what I mean? But when you're sitting on the other end, you kind of understand, and you're like, oh, thank goodness, I saved that 5 minutes. I was going to be late. I made it on time. Okay, but that was just on a lighter note.
Sure.
And what I always say also to people who complain about driving is that, you know, I drive in the CBD sometimes, Josie.
Sure.
I've never had a scratch from a taxi driver. No. They know how to drive. And why do I say that? How many times in the CBD have you gone and found two taxis bumped each other, or sebamile lapha yabachayisene? Has it ever in your life, in Jozi, since you were born, I bet $100 come and show me when you see that incident. How many taxis are driving in the CBD? A lot. Plenty. So you're telling me a person that's driving there, as soon as they go out the road, they don't know how to drive anymore? They know how to drive. It's just that the people have a negative perception towards them. When you see a taxi, you become aggressive and you want to prove a point, and you end up bumping them. They're not bumping you. If they were bumping, if they were bumpers, if they were real bumpers, they would be bumping each other in the CBD. That's just on the lighter note.
No, I feel like more driver it takes, you must know advanced driving, because like, God, it takes long and you sit like this.
And you
but
hold your breath and you pray. You are
understand.
closer to God.
Exactly,
They're
but
helping
you know.
Wow.
That's a weird way of looking at it. But in any case, thank you so much for being with us. Although there's a lot that we could have explored here, but I feel like we can still have another episode if we want. The people can tell us what else they would like to hear from Fikile. If I've missed any questions or things like that, let us know. Send us text, send us a WhatsApp or whatnot. I'll send the details. I'll put it there in the description. But okay, maybe one more thing. I always ask people a specific question. I don't know what, but for you is, what would you say to your younger self right now?
That's a difficult one.
Is it?
I would thank my younger self for
Mm.
being a dreamer,
Yeah.
and I continue to hold that
Mm.
childlike imagination
Sure,
with
sure,
me.
sure.
So yeah, I would thank myself for believing in myself and knowing that you can literally walk in any room
Mm.
that you want to walk in confidently,
Mm. Mm.
and get what you want at the end.
Mm.
Yeah.
Superwoman. I
Yeah.
well, thank you so much, Shoba, for joining us.
Thank you.
Until next time, watch the space, watch the people, watch everybody, and just make it lit. Yeah, kanjalo kanjalo.
Thank you.
Yes.